Why do you look so nervous? Smiling.
All right. Here we go. All right. We just tried a new countdown. Hope everybody likes it. Some people said it was too long. The younger folks, the millennials, said that 30 seconds was too long. So we're trying to work it down to 15 so we don't lose you guys. But welcome to episode 7 of Pours with Patriots. Today, my guest and my first guest that I have never met before until today is former United States Marine Corps Sergeant Jessica Erin. If you guys and gals have looked at the page, you've seen that she used to be in the band. So if you listened before, believe it or not, I could find a quote about the Marine Corps band.
Oh, jeez.
It was actually from a former president, John F. Kennedy. So it says, I'd always enjoyed the title of Commander-in-Chief until I was informed that the only forces that I could not transfer from Washington without my the only troops that could not be transferred from Washington without my express permission are the members of the Marine Corps band. Those are the only forces I have. I wanted announced that with purpose. I can't believe that the quote. I messed this up. I want to announce that we propose to hold the White House against all odds, at least for some time to come. So I thought that was a pretty interesting thing.
That's because we're amazing with firearms and shooting rifles at the rifle range.
Yeah, Jessica has made some pretty big claims saying that the Marine Corps band are the best marksmen in the Marine Corps. So
we are some of the best marksmen. I will say
last night she said the best.
Some of the best marksmen. Yeah. Because we're amazing,
right? So you guys have seen the guys and gals have seen the video that I posted about the program. So Jessica is from Ohio, born and raised in Lima. Mm-hmm. Graduated from high school in Lima in 1998. So not a spring chicken like me. I like it. Make a joke there about the age.
I don't look that old though.
As old as me, right?
I think you look your age.
Which is close to 50. I'm getting old, which is good, yeah. So, like I said, she served in the United States Marine Corps, enlisted right after high school in 1998. And for those, we talked about the band, but it's actually the term for it is the Musician Enlistment Option Program, MEOP, right? So, pretty interesting program. We had somebody on last a couple weeks ago, Austin, who went through the Air Force Special Operations thing with a prerequisite to get in. As I was researching, you actually just can't join that. There's a tryout you have to do.
Oh, correct? Yeah, you have to audition before you even go to boot camp. So you have contract paperwork saying that after boot camp, after all your training, you will be stationed with a band, or you'll go to the School of Music, and then as long as you make it through the School of Music, you will be in the band. They can't change that.
But so the tryout for like the musician though, they actually you meet with someone and actually. Mm-hmm.
There's recruiters who are trained to audition you.
Okay. And how long does that audition process? Is this one time or?
Mine was one time, but it has changed a lot since I joined. I think it's a lot harder to do now. I'm not going to say that.
You're supposed to say it's harder then.
No, it was not as hard as it is now. I want to give these ladies and gentlemen credit for the ones that get in now because it's harder.
Right, so she talked about doing that with the recruiter to get into that program, and then after you signed up, you went to Parris Island, South Carolina, for boot camp.
Yes.
Okay, exciting. And then for all those non-Marines here, all females up until last year, I think in March or April of last year, all went to Parris Island. Now the first female Marine recruits are actually in San Diego. And one of the things I found out was pretty interesting is that the Marine Corps is still the last branch that hasn't integrated the males and females in basic training, and they have until 2028 to do that, both in Camp Pendleton and then Parris Island. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So it's pretty interesting to see that. I always thought I didn't know that at all. I always thought,
we are completely separate. No, yeah, completely separate in boot camp. what was funny is when we would go someplace, the male drill instructors would like give the male recruits a command to like turn their heads and look the other way when we'd walk by, which was always funny. But we hardly ever crossed paths with any of the male recruits during boot camp. We were in a completely different place on Parris Island. And the only time we ever really saw them was at the rifle range, because depending on where you were in your cycle, you were all there together. And I want to say at places like at the gas chamber. And when we went through the Crucible, we were out on the course with both, but otherwise I would have not even realized they were there.
Yeah. And for everybody that's been listening for the past few months, actually, the first person I didn't know, but also the first Marine we've had on. So that's pretty special. Thanks for coming on. I talked before, and thanks for coming on and doing that. So you went to Parris Island, arguably, even though I'm in the Army, I still think it's probably the hardest boot camp or basic training in all the branches. If you look at hardest, and also I feel like you watch some stuff and you see some really cool traditions. You talked about the Crucible. Do you remember that day still finishing that?
Oh, I still have the Eagle Globe and Anchor that they handed me when I finished. Right. It's at my house. And I have held on to that, and it's been a while since I completed my Crucible training. But yeah, that was powerful when you were finished with that, because you're gross. As you guys, anybody who has been in the field and gross, and they march you straight into the ceremony of finishing the Crucible, which was really cool. There was no time for a shower. They just straight there, and they presented you with your Eagle Globe and Anchor, because it was at that point that they started calling you Marine instead of recruit, and by your rank. So another cool point with the enlisting as a musician was I was automatically a private first class when I graduated from boot camp. Most other people graduated as a private. And then our honor grad, of course, she graduated as a Lance Corporal because she was meritoriously promoted. But so it was the first time they started calling you by your rank also, instead of just recruit.
Which is pretty cool, because my middle son has a friend of his that grew up in Texas with. He actually enlisted in the Marine Corps just recently, and then finished over a couple months ago with the Crucible. And everything you say, it hasn't changed. So I mean, that you're talking about your time is in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Here we are in 2002, and they still hold on to tradition. And if you haven't seen that before, definitely you should look at a video of that. It's a pretty moving experience. Even if you're not the person that get that, it's really cool. And I think that's what's great about the Marine Corps and that tradition of boot camp. It's carried on for all those years, which was pretty cool. So you make it through boot camp where you honed your skills to be one of the best marksmen in the Marine Corps.
100%.
Okay. Outshot all those other guys that were doing that, gals. And then so your AIT or your specialty portion was in Little Creek, Virginia. Next,
before that, we have to go to Marine combat training. So I have to go as a bandsman. This is the big thing that people don't ever believe me is I went to boot camp just like everybody else. I had to go to Marine Corps combat training in, fun fact, Camp Geiger. My last name is not on Facebook, but I will tell you guys, my last name is Geiger. That's not a fun place to be when your last name is the same as the place where you're training, because when they needed someone, they would just yell my name and I would have to go. And I was the only name they had to learn. So we went there, and I was there for 10 days of field training before I went to the School of Music. So we went boot camp, home for leave, combat training, then our school. So we as musicians were without our instruments for 4+ months, depending on when you went through it. So if any of you out there that play an instrument, not playing for that long and then having to jump right back in is also not an easy thing to do.
Right. I never played. I tried to play the trumpet and it didn't go well. You could ask my dad. Didn't go well at all. Wasn't happy about having to pay for the trumpet and then all that kind of stuff. But I gave it a go for someone that couldn't read music and really didn't want to do it. Just thought it would be something fun to do. It wasn't for me. So like we said, after your combat training, you went to Little Creek in Virginia. At the time when you went through, I was just research. Were all the branches there with you at the time? Okay.
No, not all the branches. I was there with Army, Navy, Marine Corps. The Air Force, those musicians, they're amazing people because most of them already have a degree in music and then they choose to go in as enlisted, which hard to wrap your head around. Why would you choose to go enlisted if you didn't have to?
Especially in the Air Force.
For people who have been enlisted before, if you had that option. So they have their own separate. So I was there with Army, Navy, and Marines.
And I think, I brought that up because I was doing the research when you sent your bios. Actually, the Army doesn't go there anymore. They have their own separate school. So it used to be known as the U.S. Armed Forces School of Music when you went. Now where the MEOP enlisted person will go is United States Navy School of Medicine, of music. So we got a lot of doctors on here.
Well, so like
that's in my mind though.
Army, yeah. So Navy, Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I'll just get this out of the way so that no one can make a joke about it later. We are Department of the Navy, okay?
There's going to be
that's
jokes.
all we're going to say about
whether
that.
You tell, yeah. So for
that
folks
is all
that
we're going to say about that for tonight.
We have a flag up there. It doesn't say that.
It is the men's department of the Navy.
So
it's the men's department of the Navy.
We have some audience participation, which is awesome. But just to clarify, there will be more Marine jokes that we've been waiting for. So yes, we do. So again, I appreciate you saying that.
I also don't eat crayons.
Yeah, the Department of that isn't glad you brought up because there are some people that have never been in the military. So yes, the United States Marine Corps does fall under the Department of the Navy for those folks that don't know. So you do your music school, which is no joke from the stuff I've looked at. It's 6
intense. Months. So it's 6 months, but it's not something that you can just start. Like you have to be able to keep up. And so there's actually a pretty decent number of people that don't make it through that schooling, even though they have played an instrument their whole life. I mean, I started playing my saxophone when I was in the 5th grade. So what is that? You're 10 in the 5th grade?
So she's not good with math. That's where the Marine Corps is really coming out. And it's scary because she's actually a pharmacist. If you've
I count by 5.
She has a calculator definitely when she's doing her work now, hopefully. Because there's a couple numbers she's trying to figure out for me. And I'm like,
if you think about it, you've been playing an instrument for a very long time. You've made it through the audition process. And it is a hit for these people who didn't make it through the School of Music, because at that point, you're at the mercy of the Marine Corps. Wherever they need someone, they send you to that school. And all of a sudden, you're an admin, or you're in the infantry, or wherever there happened to be a hole. So
they don't give you a choice back then. It just kind of needs the Marine Corps to send you.
This is where you're going.
Yeah, because we had a guest. Yeah, we had a guest. We had a guest on a couple weeks ago that I don't think you saw, but the same thing. He had an issue with, his initial MOS in the Air Force, and they did the same thing. You could choose, but it really became at that point the needs of the Air Force and the Marine Corps, which makes sense. So, how many people are you talking about that didn't make it? Is it a large number, a handful?
I can't remember how many didn't make it through when I went through. I just remember it was a big deal when they didn't, because you were like, oh no, that could be me. I better go practice some more. And so no one wanted to lose the job, because we also had guaranteed promotions up to corporal. So I was guaranteed to be an E4 by, I think, year 3 of being in. And then from there, you had to jump through all the hoops and do all of the things. But, no one wanted to lose that. Right. So you'd see one person not make it, and then it made you work much harder.
Well, I think it's, because you look at it, you talk about, all joking aside about the band, you talk about, I think I was pretty young when I knew I wanted to join the Army, but I don't think I was like at 5 years old was honing my military skills, like with land nav or doing all kind of stuff. I guess we were playing Army, but in a way, but yeah, and there's a lot of jokes as officer that land nav. That's why I said that for some of the list of guys that are listening. We do know how to read a map and a compass and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. So I can even see that as very difficult. Like you're age 5, you've been playing an instrument, like you sign up for a special thing, and then all of a sudden, like you said, oh wow, I'm going to Hawaii and I'm going to be a truck driver. I mean, that's yeah. So
that's not what I signed up for.
What?
Those people, they're like, but this is not what I signed up for.
And yeah, and Uncle Sam, for you people that don't at that point don't go, hey, that's okay. It didn't work out for you. It didn't work out for us. You can go home. They're like,
that's never an option.
It doesn't work out for you, but it's going to work out for us. So that's cool. So while you were there, I think that you shared, I think, or before actually, that you shared with me when we talked that you had your first hiccup, you'd say, in the Marine Corps. You got hurt at some point before that, or was that actually when you went to your next?
I got hurt in San Diego.
Okay.
So I was injured in San Diego, and we can talk about that. I mean, now or later, whenever you want to do it.
I thought it was early, but yeah.
But yeah, so I was held up leaving the School of Music a little bit just because I had to have a surgery. So it pushed my time from getting to my first duty station back by about 6 months. So I ended up at the School of Music for about a year. Most people are out in 6 months. So it took me about a year from, when you think about it, like 3 months of boot camp. And then I was probably at combat training just for 2 weeks, just waiting on a class, like to get picked up in a class, and then doing that. And then you go to the school. So it's almost a year already before you even get it out of training when you're in the program that I was in. So mine was pushed back another 6 months. So it was a year and a half before I was even at my first duty station.
Which first duty station was?
Albany, Georgia.
Which is no longer there, right?
Anymore. No, they shut it down. They shut down the band. They closed. They relocated anybody that was there, or people that were about ready to retire, got out, and the band is no more. Right. So
what she's talking about is it used to be called Marine Corps Logistics Base Albany, which is southeast of Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning area. For the Army. She brought up a good point we could talk about now, which is funny, is your research. I get a lot of enjoyment about the branches of different OS. Is like one of the interesting things you talked about when you were in, it was 14 bands, right? They were all across the United States and the world, Marine Corps bands. The video I posted yesterday actually referenced 12, which was, I think that video was almost 10 years old. Yeah. And now it's actually 10.
Yeah. They've really been paring down the number of bands that they have. Which is sad to me, but
it actually be the reason why I talk about being harder. So you went from 14. I think the numbers were like 50 people in a band normally. They said so. That's right there. It's 200 people that you.
So yeah, they can be a lot more picky now. I have some friends that still will audition, and I was asking one of them. It's been a few years ago, but they're like, yeah. I said, what's it like now? And he said, almost everybody audition has a college degree. I was straight out of high school. It has changed a lot.
Right, and then some of those places I wrote them down. I can look here, but they're all over. If you've seen them, like everybody knows, the major bands. So you have like the Quantico Marine Band. There's a band in Camp Pendleton with the 1st Marine Division. Each one of the like major divisions has their own band, right? That's a safe way to say.
Pretty much,
yeah. And then overseas they have one.
And I think Air Wings.
Yeah, one now I think is Japan is the only overseas one that's still out there.
I think that was really the only official Marine overseas band. And there was always a band. There's been a band in Hawaii, which, who wouldn't want to go to Hawaii to be in the band?
That's true. Yeah. Not a bad place to be.
Everybody wanted to go to Hawaii. But yeah, they've pared it down to 10 now.
So now you go to the bands. They'll talk about what your job is in the band. So what does the band do we'll talk about, since one has gone away and most people won't know about, the one in Albany, Georgia. Let's talk about what everybody pretty much knows is San Diego. So the Marine Corps band in San Diego, what was your primary mission as a band there? So the band there supports the recruits, really. So every week you're marching for a visitor's day or a family day, and then recruit graduation. Fun fact that I did not share with you, I never marched one of those because I got hurt like a week and a half after checking into that duty station. So I spent a lot of time at a desk when I was there. But every week, Thursday and Friday, they were out marching morning colors, and then family day. And then the next day you're getting up and they're marching recruit graduation. So that was their main, the bread and butter of that band was recruits. And then they would also support changes of command, retirement ceremonies. We would do stuff out in town. I was still able to participate in seated gigs. They did some things like within the band, there were like bands within the band. So we had concert bands, we had marching, we had party band, we had jazz band, we had so different brass quintets, different things that would go out and support different different events in the community. So there would be parades. There was a big, and there still might be, I haven't looked into it in a long time, a rock and roll marathon or rock and roll half marathon. I can't remember what it was, that different people in the band would support by just playing music at one of the miles for, just keeping people's energy levels up and keeping them motivated to keep going. So we did a lot of PR also for the Marines. Like we were out in the community doing events. We'd support recruiters with different events that they might be at. So it was really kind of cool. Yeah, we talked about the call yesterday. It's definitely like for the folks there that I kind of look at as I have, if you've been in the military, you've probably seen whether it's Army bands or Marine bands. You see, I know exactly what you're talking about. You go to like an event on Post, and there's 10 or 15 musicians that are playing. So I kind of look at it as like a huge recruiting tool for the Marine Corps. I mean, everybody sees a band. You see they're they look the Marines. The Marines look good. The Marines do look good.
Real good. Good.
The Marine looks good. The Marines look
best.
Good. That's
the best.
We'll give you that, maybe. Except for the new Army uniforms.
Are nice. Yes, our dress uniform is still the best uniform.
Maybe we'll give you that. So yeah, it's a cool recruiting tool that you've seen. If you've seen the bands, I've been fortunate enough with, in the military. And then my job, I was doing military sales, so you got to see a lot of stuff. Like I went to Quantico and got to see, the Marine band there, the Silent Joel team, like that. So it's a huge, within those communities around those bases, it's a huge marketing and recruiting tool for the Marine Corps to see their bands there. So it's pretty cool. So let's digress a little bit. We've got all the way through. So you're at San Diego, which is my favorite city in the world that I've ever visited. I love San Diego. I don't know if people are so nice and the weather's great. So I don't know if it's nice because they're visiting or if they live there. I haven't figured out, but San Diego is beautiful.
I like La Jolla.
Really?
Better than San Diego.
Dress Blues Rock, someone said, is the notes.
Yes, there, so. Thank you, whoever said that.
It's probably a Marine. There's Marines in the group, so
they do.
They're biased. You guys
doesn't matter.
So go back. Let's go back a little bit. So you shared with me, and we didn't bring it up. We talked about it, but you when you graduated from high school, you said, and you sent me a text or a DM that said you knew you weren't ready for college. So what prompted you to decide to go to the Marine Corps? You didn't want to stay like a year at home, like work at Bob Evans. Like you decided let's just jump into the Marine Corps.
So there's a story. I told my parents I am not ready to go to college. And my mom was like, okay, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know yet. And I said the same thing to my dad. My parents are divorced. And I said, Dad, I'm not ready to go to college. And he was like, that's cool, but you're not living off of me. So what's your plan? And I was like, all right. And so I started doing research into how can I still, because I actually wanted to go to college to play music. And it just wasn't in the cards for me at that point. And so I said, I think I'm going to join the Marines and be in the band. And they were both like, what? And so my mom was like, all right, fine. I'll take you to the recruiter. And I was like, all right, let's go. Like, she's trying to call my bluff. Like, you're not really going to do this. I'm going to do it, Mom. So she took me down there and I walked into the recruiter's office. And for any of you who have ever been on recruiting duty, what I did made this guy's whole month. I walked in as a female and said, I want to join the Marines and I want to be in the band. 2 things that make you meet your quota for a while. And he was like, okay, let's do that. And so he
said, let me get a crayon and we're gonna make this official.
Let's go. So he had me, was auditioned within a week or 2 of that initial visit. I didn't call. I didn't say, hey, I want to come in for an appointment. I just showed up and was like, this is what I want to do. And so my husband, he spent 24 and a half years in the Army, and he still kind of chuckles when I tell him that story because I've told him that before. And he's like, yeah, you're not kidding. Like, we always needed to try to get a certain number of female people to enlist. And when you threw the band on top of it, it's like, that was also a high weighted thing because you couldn't just walk in without having some experience.
Nobody wants to really be in the band unless
everybody wants to be in the band once they find out what we get to do.
That's true.
But you had to have some experience, right? It couldn't just be anybody who'd never played an instrument before. Like, these are people who have been doing this for a while, and a lot of them do go to college and get scholarships, and their music is what gets them through it. And so that was me enlisting in the Marines and knocking the socks. His name was Gunnery Sergeant Kaffenbarger. I still remember his name because his jaw dropped and his eyes got big, and he was like, all right.
You just made my job so easy. What he said, he was like,
I get to take the rest of the month off. Done. Okay.
He's like, that captain that's stuck here in recruiting is going to finally leave me alone. It's going to be great.
Done. Yeah. I'm done.
So at that time, there was no other thoughts. It was just like, I had a question here about, was there any other MOS you were thinking about? Any other branch? Was it straight up Marine Corps band?
I liked the uniforms the best. So that's where I went.
Good reason. And another reason too, Austin, which was what you brought up before, which is a lot of people, again, if you're not listening, it's still in effect. It's a little bit different from the time that you enlisted and when I came in, is the Montgomery GI Bill is what it originally did. We're not going to get into the details about what that means. And now it's called the Post-911 GI Bill. Much better benefits for service members. But for most people, like we had, a guest on a couple weekends ago, he's in his first enlistment. Once you do your enlistment, you get honorably discharged. You have a lot of money to go to college. And with the new GI Bill, much better than I think when you and I went.
I mean, mine paid for all of my undergraduate work.
Yeah.
And then I used VA vocational rehabilitation because I was injured. And that paid for almost all of my pharmacy school. Yeah. So I got a pretty good deal. Right.
And then talk about that. We're trying to get better at talking about things. So that's an interesting thing that people aren't listening. If you have, kids that are thinking about this, they're not sure about college, the military, the Marine Corps. Yeah. The Marine Corps, besides the band, all of them are great options. The GI Bill, you should have them really research that. It's something really amazing to be able to go get some experience for 4 years, come back. You can still be 22 years old and be able to go to college and get out of that debt free. So it's definitely a great thing. And a lot of people take advantage of it. And you wrote that. It was kind of funny. You said it how I read it. I guess I'd never met you. So how I read it, it was like, there's a party that felt a little bad. Because I think you worded something like, I have to tell you about why I joined. I felt like when you said it, I read it now knowing that I've sat with you a little bit now that you win it. But at first I was like, I hope she doesn't think that's like a bad thing. You know
it's what I mean? Because if I wasn't wearing this shirt and you didn't tell people that I was in the Marines, the look I get is, no, you weren't. Right. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I am 5'1.5" on a good day. I am not a big person. And no one ever people think I'm joking when I tell them that I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. Like, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. And I've had to go so far as pulling out my VA identification that I have now that says Marine Corps veteran on it to prove to people, because if I walked into a room, your first thought is never going to be, oh, she must have been a Marine.
Yeah. I mean, if they ask you some simple math questions about years and dates, if you ask them that and you figured out, they'd be like,
no,
she definitely was the Marine Corps.
I'm going to say
back calculation, 2 years ago was 2020. You're getting better.
That was 2 years ago. But also what I want to add is, if you are a veteran, get connected to the VA. Get connected to the VA tomorrow if you haven't already done it.
Sure. We've talked about the VA here before. People have exactly right. Form your own opinion about the VA, but you should definitely give the VA a shot if you're a veteran. It does have its benefits. It does work for some people.
Yeah.
Some people have different beliefs on it.
It's
one of my hotspots. It's funny.
It's hit or miss, but get connected, because guess what? I never had to go participate in VA medical care, which is some of the things people might have opinions about. To qualify for VA vocational rehabilitation, all I had to have was a disability rating. And I was able to get that because I was injured while I was on active duty. Your injury doesn't have to be attached to a deployment or combat or any of it. It's just something that might have happened while you were in service to the government. So why not use the benefits that you are entitled to anyway?
That's a good point. I feel like, did you talk to my dad? Because my dad and I just had my dad. If you haven't listened, what's interesting about Jessica is she actually does not have Facebook on her app, Facebook app on her phone. So it's funny. She hasn't seen any of the videos and stuff. And I'm really honored that you came in to do something on Facebook. You shared how much you didn't like it, but in past podcasts we did talk about the VA. I'm not a huge fan of the VA system. I think it could be a lot better, a lot easier. But you're exactly right. If you're not connected to it in some way, I am. I have went to the VA when I got active duty, but could I be using it more? Yes, and that's why I think it's funny. I feel like you had a good PSA that. So you sound like my dad. It's pretty interesting. He just told me this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the VA and me having to go back and stuff. But yeah, Jessica's absolutely right. If you're a veteran, you should definitely be connected with it. And one of the core things we talk about, there's a lot of help there as far as the mental health issue that we're having. I think those are the guys and gals that really understand us the best, believe it or not.
They really do. And I'm going to go sideways on this for a second. Sorry, I just hit that.
We set that up for hours. Take it easy on the equipment. I
had non-military related, trauma that I needed to process. And I did it all through the VA. They were wonderful. The Columbus VA was absolutely wonderful for that. And like, that's my plug right there. Go there, even if it's because you need to process something that wasn't even related to your time in the service. Like, if you have connection there, it is almost free or is free. And we all know mental health in the United States is very prevalent right now. I'm not going to go down too far of a rabbit hole,
Right.
but it's also not cheap. So if you need it, use their hotlines and use the people that they have there, because that's why they employ them, is to help people.
Right, that is important. We are focused on veteran mental health. That's kind of the thing of the group that we're talking about. But May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month for everybody. And as far as mental health goes, I mean, there's a lot of veterans and not veterans in here. We are focused on veterans. But I posted something last night to everybody. But it's really mental. The suicide and mental health issue is not just with veterans; it's with everybody. So it was one of those all those things. Remember, but there is definitely, like Jessica said, the VA is a great place also for everybody else. We'll talk about, we'll give the number later, but there is the Veteran Crisis Hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255, and you can press 1, or you can text 838-255. So very good. I feel like my dad got in your ear and you haven't even met my dad. That's good. So I feel like this is all fate that goes along. So I definitely, my dad might be right. He's been right a few times. So we went back there. So that's what I thought. And I'm glad we clarified that. It's funny if I would have, it's always fun about finding when you meet somebody, like how they write something, how you interpret it was different. Because when I first read that about you doing this, I was like, does she really think that this, like, that's a lesser reason to join the military? There's also, I think it's a great story. I think it's super smart, especially the way, tuition is nowadays, to be able to use the GI Bill and do those kind of things, which is great.
It also makes you take college a little bit more seriously when you're 22 versus 18.
Yeah. I'll just tell my sons that. You guys hear that, Nate? Actually, once graduated.
Take college seriously.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
Very true. So now you're in San Diego.
Actually, am I allowed to answer that question that says, Jessica, are you a member of the Marine Corps League? No.
Oh, come on.
I'm not.
How about I'll go back to the VA if you join the Marine Corps League? We'll make a pact.
Okay, I probably can do that.
All right, we'll make a pact on the side, so we'll do that. So you're in San Diego, arguably my favorite city. You say it's not, tomato. You think,
you can have your favorite.
It's a great place.
No one's trying to judge you about your favorite. I'm just saying La Jolla is pretty cool. Did you ever go to La Jolla?
I did. It's time to
what about those cliffs, and the ocean and the seals and the tide pools?
Those seals in San Diego, the different.
Yeah, but those seals. I mean, yeah, no, those are in Coronado.
No, but it's San Diego. It's the same.
It's area. Coronado Island. It's different.
Close, yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Back to San Diego.
Good, yeah. No, they're all great. California. I mean, I wouldn't live in California now, anyways, but that's fine, just for the cost of living and everything. But so you're in San Diego. Decided it's time to get out. You did your initial enlistment 4 years. So you get honorably discharged in 2002, and you come back home and go back to Lima and start your college experience at the Ohio State
University in Lima, Ohio.
Okay.
Many of you may not even know that there's a campus of Ohio State there, but there is.
Do they have a football team there?
No, they do not. No, they do not. And I don't have a bachelor's degree from Ohio State at all. I don't have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, which is interesting because we were talking. Yeah, we can talk more about that. So the funny thing about, I've had a lot of fun doing this because it's interesting how these things tie back to my own personal experience. So 2 weeks ago, my son graduated from the University of Findlay. So after you said you were at Ohio State at Lima, you decided that some point you were going to go become a pharmacist. So you're into the school of pharmacy at the University of Findlay.
I went to the University of Findlay, but first I got denied by Ohio Northern twice. They did not want to let me in. And I met with the dean there, and he was a very nice man. And he said, our classes are just too full. We can't accept any external transfers. So he put me in touch with the dean at the University of Findlay, and I went and interviewed there and was able to go to pharmacy school at the University of Findlay, which was awesome. One
of the things I think is great about knowing you for an hour because you showed up late. But
I have 3 kids.
Marine Corps,
I have 3 kids.
And
I know I don't look
everybody
that
knows
old.
it stresses me out like big time. I'm like, oh my gosh. And we almost had a substitute for you to pretend to be you, but it's fine. But what is, and all joking aside, you've talked about a couple of like setbacks, and I think it is absolutely, all joking aside, one of the reasons I'm doing this, like you just talked about not getting into a school twice. And the funny thing is just watching you're smiling ear to ear. It wasn't like it was a big deal. So,
I mean, at the time it was a big deal.
Yeah,
okay?
no, but I get it. Yeah.
Let's not
But,
downplay that. At the time it was a big deal. But the takeaway is don't stop trying. That's the takeaway. Do not stop trying.
yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. You're extremely positive about. Yeah, I understand at the time it's different. Like I doubt you were smiling that much, but it is. I think it's an important thing why I started this podcast is to talk about that. Yeah, we've all been knocked down. The key is to dust yourself off. Pick yourself up and keep doing what you want to do, or trying to do what you do until someone absolutely tells you, "Hey, stupid, you're not doing this," which is great. So you go.
That's how I ended up being a pharmacist.
I thought that was to be in the Marines.
No,
so like, no,
I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I know my life. If you even knew all the jobs I've had. I worked in a veterinary clinic, and a very, very wise veterinarian sat me down and said, "Hey, Jessica, this is not the job for you." And I was like, "But I want to be a veterinarian." And she's like, "You take home too many kittens. You will not make any money. You will not be successful. Have you thought about pharmacy school?" And that's how that happened, because I took home all the kittens. So even if someone does tell you maybe something isn't for you, listen to them, because they might know what they're talking about.
Right, a lot of that's true. Like taking people's advice, I think that's getting harder and harder.
She was wonderful. And she wasn't mean about it or anything. She was just like, "I watch you. I see how much you love being here. I see how much you love interacting with these animals. There's other ways for you to do that. I don't think you're going to be successful being a veterinarian, because you have to be able to tell people no." And that was hard for me, because they were like, "Hey, do you guys want this litter of kittens?" And she's like,
Yes.
And I'm like, "Yes, I'll take them home right now. Give me the basket."
Yeah, I couldn't be a veterinarian. I know that for other reasons.
So yeah, that's
somebody
fun
said.
fact.
Somebody just posted. Does that mean that you take home all the drugs now?
No, absolutely not. Never.
Totally different. Come on, be serious here. We're talking about cats. There's a big difference.
Kittens are cute.
So exciting about drugs are not cute. Okay, drugs are bad. Okay, but so you go to, which is pretty cool. Like about when you talk about you were one of the first few people to go to. You're the second class.
Yeah, second graduating class of pharmacy school.
So that's pretty cool. And I don't know, essentially, I've had a chance to talk to my son about it, how big that program is right now, but it's a pretty small school. And I'm assuming there's still there. I know there's actually a pharmacist program up there.
There is. I teach for it.
Yeah, you're talking about that. You go up and teach once a year.
Yeah, I teach a class in the fall.
Yeah, so
1 day a week.
Which is cool. Like I wish I told my son actually wanted to be a veterinarian, the oldest one, and I told a different approach not about cats. I was just like, it's going to cost you a shit ton of money. And it's going to take forever, and like
it's harder to get into veterinary school than medical school.
Yeah, and he's now a nurse, so it's pretty. Yeah, he did it a different way. He's taking care of humans instead of cats, because would have probably had 200 cats or dogs. He's more of a dog guy, but it would have been interesting. So you graduate from there, and then you get you did your residency still at Lima.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about, when I first talked to her, she said she went in the Marine Corps, she didn't go back, and then we talked for like 10 minutes, and she talked about Lima. I was like,
I kind of
went back. Yeah, I mean, it's
you
did go back. You didn't go live in your parents' house, but you went back.
No, I did. I lived with my dad.
I didn't know that.
I did.
So you did go back. Maybe there's a misunderstanding of going back. So she did go back to Lima.
I did. I moved with my dad, and he was wonderful, and he let me live with him.
Yeah.
Because he's like, okay, you're in college. You're in college. Now you can be here. Awesome. Thanks, Dave Geiger. And that's what I call my dad, Dave Geiger. I don't call him dad.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look back, so that's a tough thing. So there's different philosophies, like especially in today's world. I there's very few parents that say like, hey, you're 18, get out, live on your own. And a lot of times if you do that now, people will freak out. But your dad kind of did that to you.
Well, he just said I had to have a plan. Like, you don't get to just sleep in and eat my food all day. Like, you have to at least go contribute if you want to stay here, or you can go stay with your mom. But yeah, it was more of you're not just going to freeload off of people. You have to have some sort of work ethic about your life. And so I appreciate that he said that to me, that he said, you have to have a plan. And so the best plan I knew was to join the Marines.
Join the Marine band, which is not the best plan. The only plan was.
That was my only plan. It's true.
It
was great. I mean, I got to do some really cool things.
Yeah, we talked about that. I mean, before we get into it, like we talked about in the past, some of the other past guests, you know, that have been on, you know, we were at war for a long time. So a lot of people deployed to different places. So you didn't do deployments, but you did get to travel all over. You said you traveled to Puerto Rico, Canada, the United States. So what was your favorite place that you traveled with the band and why?
I mean, Puerto Rico. Who doesn't want to go to Puerto Rico? It was amazing. It was amazing. And we only had to we were there for like 3 days. We had one gig and then we were just in Puerto Rico. I mean, and side note, the band knows how to party. Okay. We don't mess around. We don't mess around. We had a blast. We had such a good time. And that was the cool stuff people would learn. They're like, oh, you're in the band. I'm like, yeah, but I travel places and I do a gig or two. And then we don't do anything else but sit around and like go swimming or go to the beach or, you know, do whatever we want to do. We did the other fun one we did, which I really liked, was we went to, and we just did a march in a parade in Connecticut, but the hosts that had us come there were so amazing. And like, they fed us these amazing meals. We had to march in a parade. And then we took trains into the city and we went and hung out in New York City. I love Broadway shows. So we went to see, me and a group of my friends, we went and saw Broadway shows. Like, we did all kinds of cool things that you wouldn't have been able to do had you not been in my shoes. So, yes, it's true. That comment, isn't Division Band responsible for headquarters security? It is. Yeah.
Yeah, because they are some of the best marksmen
in the Marine
Corps.
In
the Marine Corps.
But no, if like I have had friends, so I was discharged in 2002, and then very beginning of 2003 was when they held MOSs. So or held discharges. So even if you were ready at that point to discharge, they held you in because that's when that's when we were heading into conflict again. And I have friends who were still in when I got out, and their job, they would deploy, and that was their job, headquarters security. That's what they did. And so it was pretty cool.
So we're about 40 minutes in. I think it's time for the first whiskey break.
He's going to make fun of me.
An interesting whiskey. Like you have seen, we have a good banter going back and forth about stuff. So
Angel's Envy is delicious. I don't care who you are.
Not only was she 30 minutes late, but I asked my guests to bring their favorite bottle. This is a true story. You guys know I like to exaggerate things. So I asked them their favorite bottle to bring, and then I pair one with it to try to keep the story going. And then if we could reverse the camera, we drink a lot of whiskey before and after. So Jessica said her favorite was Angel's Envy Rye.
Oh, was I supposed to answer that?
Yeah. So
Angel's Envy Rye.
But Angel's Envy Rye. So
I couldn't find the bottle.
The funny thing is, so yesterday we're talking about, she's like, "Oh, I was going to bring that, but I can't find it. I think I drank it all." So I actually don't have a bottle of that in my basement. I do have regular Angel's Envy bourbon. Don't have any rye, but thank goodness one of the people thank God the Army helped out the Marine Corps like we always do. But for all you folks that don't know what it is, Angel's Envy Rye is actually from Angel's Envy, but actually distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana by MGP.
Delicious.
It's not age stated, but it's rumored to be about 6 to 7 years old, 100 proof, and the mash bill is a heavy MGP rye mash bill, 95% rye, 5% malted barley. Angel's Envy, a little bit about Angel's Envy. It was actually founded in 2010 by Wes Henderson, and then his dad, Lincoln Henderson, who used to. That's a big pour. I'll pour it into mine here because I'm definitely not going to drink that much.
I mean, I'm not going to drink that much either.
I just Jason brought it, so I'm trying to get it there. But actually,
do you guys not remember me saying I'm 5'1", 5'1" and a half on a good day?
We have water. You'll be iron bread to soak it in. But so for all those folks that don't know, that Lincoln Henderson used to work for Woodford Reserve, also with with Jack Daniels. He started with his son in 2010. He actually, before he passed away in 2013, Angel's Envy, him and his son started working together on blending things. Angel's Envy, probably the most prominent things you talk about is Angel's Envy Rye, which I think is probably for the most part the most popular. And also there's Angel's Envy Bourbon. And they also do special releases that go out throughout the year. Angel's Envy actually opened a distillery in Louisville, downtown Louisville in 2016. And officially the record, that's all the product is distilled by the Louisville Distilling Company, which is actually a subsidiary of Bacardi Limited. So Angel's Envy, like I said, is actually sourced from MGP. It's one of those things. So when we talk about source, that means MGP makes that for them. It's their own specific mash bill that they do that. And what's interesting about this one, for the folks that know, if you can see, if you haven't had it, but it's actually aged in Caribbean rum casks. Those casks were actually, before they are used by Angel's Envy for the rum casks, they're actually cognac cask as well. So they're actually double cast. And then what happens with Angel's Envy is it's batched twice. So they did 8 or 12 barrels, batch it together, then put them in the rum barrels. And then when they come out of the rum barrels, usually 18 months later, they blend them back together to get this awesome Angel's Envy. I don't hate Angel's Envy. Maybe my only gripe at Angel's Envy for the price, $100 price point. It's pretty steep, and I think there's some other ryes that.
I like what I like.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, and that's wrong.
Like.
And what's cool about that, like
just like you like San Diego.
Yeah, true. And you like La Jolla. It's all right. Like I like the Army. You like the Marine Corps. It's different, but it's not that it's bad. So enjoy. Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for Jason bringing your favorite bottle to Force of Patriot. So
I appreciate
that strike two late. Didn't even have her favorite whiskey, it's actually a good ploy though. I think it's a good ploy. Like, I really like this. I don't have it anymore. Maybe I'm catching on here.
I like this comment. Che talks so well about the bourbon, but he screwed up that quote big time.
I did. I'll do it later at the end. Yeah, it was actually pretty. And now that we've had this,
I like that.
So what do you like about? Josh has actually figured out how to put quotes on the thing, which is pretty fun. Now we're moving along. To me, it's too sweet. Like this is too sweet. Yeah.
I like it because it's sweet.
Yeah, it is. It's to me, it's just a little too sweet. So
I just like it. I think it tastes good, and that's all I know.
That's why
it tastes good.
No, it isn't bad. I mean, my thing is like for the people that know me in the bourbon world, I always look at things like the price of it, and then like how I like the taste of it. Like for $100, it's got to be pretty good. For $100, I mean, this to me just
it's pretty good.
It is. It's sweet. I mean, the rum. I'm not a huge rum person, but it is pretty good. So
I also like rum. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I know we're not talking about rum, but if any of you ever have the chance to try a rum called Papa's Pillar rum, it's delicious.
Look at this. She's so. Are you sponsored by them?
No, it's just so good. She's gonna
throw on the hat next or whatever.
It's just so good. Cool. I don't like crayons.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we were talking about, that's another question I got sold. So her favorite. We know her favorite whiskey, but what is your favorite flavored crayon?
I don't eat crayons.
Come on, all Marines eat crayons.
I don't. The band is different.
Oh, that's true. They probably are.
We're much smarter.
Wow. See, I didn't have to say that for all the other Marines that are listening. Dan, Landon, like I didn't say that. I didn't have to say that, but she says she's smarter and shoots better than you guys. So you guys can hash that out later. So, so you go to pharmacy school. Graduate from University of Findlay, like my son. You do your postgraduate residency, and then you get your first job, which was at Hospice Script, right?
Yep.
And we won't mention what it is now. We'll call it Hospice Script, but it does have a different name now. So you talked to the phone. You were doing telemarketing. Is that the right? You were doing like telephone. Like what? I don't have to go into details, but like the telephone. Like
so I did telephone consults. So my entire pharmacy career has been in. And this is about to go a different direction in caring for people at end of life. So my first job was working. I was in a Hospice Script continues to be a hospice consulting company started by a woman from here in Columbus. And so I would talk with nurses on the phone. So nurses would be in the home of someone. So home hospice is people who have foregone curative therapies and they have decided I'm going to focus on comfort, and that can be done anywhere. It can be done in your home. It can be done in a nursing home. It can be done in the hospital. But these patients who are, I mean, struggling with symptoms at end of life need help. I mean, these symptoms are no joke at the end of life. And I get very serious about this because I'm very passionate about it. But so as a pharmacist, I am an expert in medications and what medications should be used when, and maybe when others shouldn't be used, and what might be the best choice, or how to dose something, how to increase the dose, how to convert it to something else. And so that was my first job, was talking with nurses on the phone to really understand what's the symptom happening in the home right now that you're trying to manage, and giving them a recommendation, not an order, but a recommendation that they could take back to the physician and say, hey, this is what the pharmacist thinks I should do. And for the most part, the physicians are like, yep, do that.
So when you did that first job, did you just fall into that job? Is that what you wanted to do? That was one of my questions. Did something draw you to that?
I'm very passionate about pain management. And so I knew I would get to impact pain management through that job. So my injury, going backwards, was I was doing hand-to-hand combat with a colleague of mine who happened to be male. And I bring that up because much of the conversation after that, I'll get up to in just a second, but I was hurt. And I herniated 2 discs in my back, and I've been in chronic pain ever since. So what happened was, when I tell people how I got hurt, they're like, well, why'd they pair you with a guy? And I'm like, if I get deployed, do you think I'm going to go up against a woman? Like, what do you think actually happens? I need to be able to defend myself against whatever would happen to come at me. And more often than not, that is going to be a male. And as a woman, I also have to defend myself against other things that I'm not going to go into detail about. I never had to deal with, but I know some women are coming forward now and talking about abuses that they came up against while they were enlisted. And so it's like, if you take a step back, the best thing the Marine Corps could have done was pair me with my friend and tell him not to take it easy on me, because we were training. Like, it was teaching me what I would need to do should I come up on that situation, which, I mean, could happen, right? And so that's one of my big things, is like, I'm glad that I had to train that way. I'm not glad that women have to defend themselves a little bit differently than men might, just because we're women. But like, that is one of the big things that I talk about. They're like, I can't believe that you're so okay with being paired with a guy. Like, you kind of have to be. Like, if you want to join the armed forces, you have to be okay with training against a man and learning how to defend yourself in that situation, because you're not going to be that close to a woman. I've never deployed, but I mean, for those of you out there that might have, how many of you ever came across a woman not in your own unit, right? So that injury caused pain. So that just got me going about how passionate I became about pain management. So I still deal with that, but it's okay.
So being a female Marine, we talked about, we try to delve into the dark part of the military, because everyone thinks everything's glamorous about it. It's great. So, you just shared that, you're probably still in pain from this day. A lot of us veterans, we do live with a pain of a lot of things, physically, mentally. So the Marine Corps is still, there's still some stories right now, especially in all the branches, where female Marines, female soldiers, airmen, there's that extra added part from your own male counterparts that make it more difficult. Did you deal with that back in the 90s when you were coming in the band? I mean, was that something that was...
Didn't really, because the other great part about being in the band was, like, these guys were my brothers, right? And so if we were out on a gig and they didn't have the right kind of changing rooms for us, like, we never had to do anything about it, because one of them was like, why would you do this to them? Why would you not give them a place to change that's separate from, like, what were you thinking? And so they would take care of it. So I was kind of shielded from it. I had a little bit of some stuff, but what I had to deal with was nothing compared to what some of these brave women who are coming forward now and talking about, was nothing compared to what these women had to deal with. So kudos to all of them for being brave enough to come forward and talk about what they dealt with, because that's not okay.
Yeah.
It is not okay to use a position of power against a woman ever. Hard stop.
I don't think we have to add into that. I think just say like hard stop. That's what we're gonna say right there, which is perfect. Now, so you did that. So you worked there for 3.5 years at Hospice Script, and then you started working at Ohio Health, which is where you've been since 2015, right? As a pharmacist, like you've talked that you're very passionate about dealing with pain management, and palliative care and hospice. Which it's so awesome. Like I said, I when you're talking before, it's so funny how you don't know somebody, but you learn something. Like my mom passed away from cancer a little over a decade ago, and her last, I think, day and a half is the only time she spent in hospice, just because of, we're not getting into the details, but just a lot of just bullshit. But it was really interesting, the different level of that time that she was in the hospital. I was there for like 3 or 4 days. I was in Texas at the time, and my mom was in New York, and I spent those 3 days in the hospital, and then the day and a half in hospice, which was crazy how much passion they had for my mom at the time, who was there to die. It was pretty amazing. And I thank you for what you do.
It is a calling for many of us.
That laugh of that,
it's a calling.
That last
it's hard.
hours with my mom were definitely.
I hope they took good care of you.
No, it's amazing. Like to me, it's you went from a hospital environment where they were arguing about how much my father owed and all this kind of stuff and what they were going to do, and they needed the bed out of there. And for the people that know me, that just energized me to be like, hey, I'll blow this fucking place up. And the thing here is like, you're going to take care of my mom, and then to take her somewhere where they only dealt with her for less than 36 hours, and they treat her with like an amount of dignity and respect that I've never forgotten. Not to say there wasn't nurses at the hospital that did the same thing. It's just, but the overall experience, I just remember, I think it absolutely takes a special person to do all these things. And thank you for what you do. It meant a big deal to me, and it gave me a lot of closure to see that people like you and the nurses and the doctors that work there that really care for someone that they really don't even know. So I really, really appreciate that. So,
well, it's funny because what you'll find if you ever encounter people in hospice again is we get similarly defensive. We're like, I will blow this place up if you don't do what I said you're supposed to do. Like, give them what we told you to give them. It's fine. Take care of this person. Don't make me come up there. Like, I will put on my mom voice when I need to. Be like, don't make me come up to that floor.
What was crazy to me is it was my taking care of my mom, and then also at the same time, we're taking care of me. They when I was there the first couple hours, they gave me a pamphlet that I'd never seen or even read about. This is like 10 years ago, so internet wasn't what it was there, but it wasn't like everybody had the same phone to look some stuff up. But they gave me this pamphlet about my mom had a terminal illness. She knew that was happening, and like all these stages that I didn't understand what for lack of it, to be honest with you, what the fuck she was doing. Like, I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
But this pamphlet they gave me and like gave it to me, it just, all the anger I had towards my mom, and not understanding it just came back to me really quick. So I was like, wow, they're taking care of my mom. They're taking care of me and my family, the people that are going to live through this. And then, the part of after my mom passed away, what they did for my mom to make sure that, my dad, my aunts, my sister, that they had, a good memory of my mom as she left. So I thank you.
Well, that's the other cool thing that people don't realize about hospice is the benefit continues for 13 months after someone dies. So the reason for that is to get them through the 1-year anniversary of losing their loved one, because hospice is for the patient and their family. So multiple levels of support for the patient, right? They're our focus, but we also make sure family members are supported. And so that, little tidbits about hospice that people don't understand because they think, oh, hospice means you're about to die. False. Doesn't mean that. So, yeah.
Pretty amazing. So somebody asked, what's stronger, mom voice or Sergeant of the Marines voice?
Probably mom voice.
Mom voices are scary.
So
especially when you start throwing profanity in there. Like mom voices are scary. Like dad voice, you could yell, scream, but like when mom yells, every kid they're like.
So that makes me think of something that I say to people. Like, you know, you'll hear people say, I'm going to go mama bear on somebody. I don't say that. I say, I'm going to go mom Canadian goose. Because like, I think I'm more afraid of a Canadian goose than a bear.
They're vicious, actually.
I mean, that's what I say.
My old boss, actually his wife got attacked by a Canadian goose on Parris.
They do not back down. Those things can fly. They choose not to fly.
But they're protected also.
They would rather hold up a whole line of traffic than fly.
And they're also, I think, protecting Ohio.
They are.
So
and there's 6 million of them.
Yeah, so I didn't know this. So I moved here 8 years ago, and my boss at the time.
Freaking geese.
You'd see them around here if you're in the area here. They're out. Just right. They will literally shut down traffic. They're like, they just look at you like, it's like, you can't do anything to me. Which is funny. So my boss went to a restaurant in Parris, and when they pulled in, there was all these cones. And so he's thinking, you know, it's a busy Friday. Like, oh, these cones are here. Like most people do. Like they're just, you know, reserving this spot for me and my wife. Well, they had reserved this spot, these cones, because there was a mother Canadian goose that had a nest.
She'll cut you. She will cut you.
His wife got out. The Canadian goose shot at her, attacked her, and he's telling me this story. And for everybody that knows me or doesn't know me, I immediately acted like I was concerned for about 20 seconds, and then was hysterical laughing about a goose attacking me. He was like, Shay, it is not funny. My wife, like, she sprained her wrist. All this kind of, it's very serious.
They don't back down.
I'm like, Paul, did you not see the cones? He's just like, you're missing the point. I'm like, no, you're missing the point. Like, there's a coned off area.
You don't mess with those geese.
Don't mess with the Canadian goose.
So don't mess with me.
So I'm gonna
go Canadian goose on you.
That's pretty scary, actually. I mean, that's more scary than Marine Corps.
That's what I say. Like, don't mess with my kids. Mom, Canadian goose.
So we moved along. We moved through your military career. We moved through like you're becoming a pharmacist, and what you're doing. So go back to Marine Corps. Like, what was the most important thing you learned from the Marine Corps?
That's the hard question. Flying rats. Sorry. Yes. What I learned was, like, don't back down, right? Like, if something's not right, don't back down. And not just if something's not right, but like, if you really feel strongly about something, just don't stop. And that's kind of what I learned. Like, don't stop in training. If it gets hard, that's the worst time to quit, right? Like, that's the worst time to quit. That's when we grow. And that's when we look back and we're like, holy moly, look at me. So like, just don't quit. Don't back down. All of that stuff. It's okay to be an advocate. It is okay to be a strong, powerful, opinionated woman and not be labeled other things.
I learned. See the hand movement that was with that, everybody.
Hard stop.
Do you see that? No hard stop. Keep going. I just had to get the hand. I feel like
but that's, I mean, so you can apply that to anything, right? In leadership right now, you know, if you look at men and women in leadership, and this is what I've learned, is men who don't back down and are opinionated and speak their mind. They're like, woo, you're awesome. Women do that and we get called something else, right? But don't let that stop you.
Not by everybody.
No, not by everybody. But don't let that stop you, right? Don't let that stop you. If you're passionate about something, if you really want to succeed at something, you just can't quit. And so I went off on a tangent.
No, it's good. I mean, I think. I mean, what I take from the same thing is, like, you know, I think, you know, my time in military school, my time in the military did really teach you not to quit. I mean, most of us that have done, not most of us, every one of us, have been pushed to that limit of, you know, physical, mental, and that's different for every person, right? That goes through, but all of them have been pushed physically, mentally, they've been challenged. And I think when you learn those bad times, it really takes, like, you know, you can go back sometimes when you're in the military and be like, gosh, you know, I'm really pissed off that I don't have, my water is warm. And then you just think about, like, holy shit, I was at Fort Irwin drinking warm water out of a, you know, plastic 5-gallon jug for 10 days. Like, it could be a lot worse. So I think that is,
I didn't get to take a shower for 10 days. I'll deal with warm water.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So staying on the Marine Corps before we go. So I'm trying to change up the questions because they've been pretty. So like that was that's what you learned. What's your worst moment in the Marine Corps? What is your worst experience coming out of the Marine Corps that you remember, like that you?
Oh, okay. I actually included this in a little thing I wrote up not too long ago, and I learned some lessons on how to not be a great leader. Like, not even gonna lie about that. Learn some lessons on how to not be a great leader. Don't let power go to your head. Just because you're in a leadership role doesn't mean you're real great at something. Like, it just means you're in a leadership role. So like, don't be that guy.
Or gal. Come on.
Or gal. Sorry. I say guy for most things. But
it's 2022. We're trying to do math here. We gotta
I call Mandy dude. Like, it's fine. But like, don't be that person. So I learned that, like, don't be the person that lets a title or your impression of having power go to your head, because no one wants to listen to that person.
No, that's true. I think it is. Those are great. I think it's fine. Those are very great. And like the fine thing is, we'll talk about here in a second, but a great point you brought up about, leadership. And what's interesting, especially with the Marine Corps, and not to bash anything, but the Marine Corps is getting hit really hard lately with toxic leadership, is the new term they talk about. These Marines, of all ranks that are just doing exactly what you learn. It's funny you say that, from being in the 90s to now, that something hasn't changed. You hear these stories about these toxic leaders in the Marine Corps that really I'm a Marine captain or I'm a Marine gunnery sergeant. You just do what I say and deal with it. So that is important. Yeah, when you're
not question me. Who do you think you are questioning me? And I questioned some people and I got in a lot of trouble, but also it was appropriate questioning, right? I'd have people who were one rank above me who were like, you have to do this and this and this and this. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
And for branches, though, for people that don't know, like, I think, you and I are talking, and most of the people are listening, here today, and then all, in my basement here, and also there, like, a lot of people have military experience. So I think the things you're saying, you understand. But one of the things I think to highlight about the Marine Corps is one of the smallest branches, so it's super small. So, and why I say that is those people, they take it very serious. Like the Marine Corps, like rank, all the branches I've seen, like Marine Corps rank is like very, very serious. Like even like you said before, like, if a specialist is talking to a PFC or E3 in the Army, the PFC is probably like, fuck you. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. I had to stand at attention or at least at parade rest to listen to what someone had to say to me about what I may or may not have packed for a trip.
Right. And they take very serious. I can see that. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's very like structured, which a lot of the military is like. One of my favorite Marine Corps stories is with the rank structure. It's funny to bring that up, as I was actually in my civilian job. I was in the reserves at the time, and I was a captain, and I was working with the Marine Corps on a project, and it was a maintenance type project. We're working on it, and a bunch of gunnery sergeants are out there, and they had a CW3. So in the Army, we call CW3, we call warrant officers, especially CW3s, we call them chief. Okay. That's a normal term we call. Not pilots. We have some people there. You're right. Not except for if you're a pilot, they call them Tom, Jim, Bob, Karen, whatever they do. They're on a first name basis. But I'm talking about the real warrant officers. No, I'm talking about maintenance warrants mainly. You call them chief, especially like after warrant officer one. If you see a W01, you generally a warrant officer.
Mine are CW.
Yeah, but the Army rank when I was W01, then CW2, CW3. So warrant officer one is like the initial warrant officer rank. So those are for warrant officer rank. There are people that were E5, E6s, E7s. They went from the enlisted rank to the warrant officers because they're specialists in something. So especially warrant officer one, we would call them warrant officer Smith or Miller or whatever. But after you made CW2, especially if you're like CW3, CW4, like we call them chief, which is out of like a term of endearment. So I'm talking to these
kind of like we'd call them top.
Right. Yeah. So we're talking to, I'm talking to these gunnery sergeants, and this warrant officer comes up, CW3, and I call him chief, and we're talking, and I say chief again, and he, in front of like 5 gunnery sergeants, says, my name is warrant officer. I can't remember the name. I would refer to you, call me warrant officer this. I am not a chief. I'm not an Indian. And so all these gunnery sergeants look at me. So I immediately go, hey, by the way, just so you know, I'm a captain of the U.S. Army Reserve. So anytime you want, you can start calling me sir, chief. And he turned beet red, stormed out of there, right? And I look at these gunnery sergeants, and I'm expecting like these Marine gunnies to be like, you just crossed one of our guys. They are like high-fiving me. They're like, Dad, way to tell him, like all this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, it was one of the best moments. But and then the warrant officer, he came back to me and was like, you understand we have a different culture. I was like, yeah, but and he's like, you didn't have to say that in front of like these gunnies. I was like, you didn't have to call me out in front of the gunnies, which is like you talked about before. Like when you're right, you're right. When you're right, you're right. Yeah, don't be a dick like I am. But I think somebody put that earlier that I'm a dick. But yeah, but it's interesting. To that, so but back, and I am a dick. That's all right. Look at that self-reflection. No, but it goes back to what you said. It's like when it's right, it's right. When it's wrong, it's wrong. And I think everybody everybody's entitled to that. And we've all been guilty before. We've had a couple guests on here that are senior NCOs still in the Guard. I challenge them to listen to that too. Like everybody has a voice. When you're wrong, you're wrong. It doesn't matter what rank you are. And the best part to be is I second the motion.
Second the motion. Sorry,
but
like for anybody that knows anybody that's still in active duty, please tell them that just because they're a certain rank doesn't mean they don't have a voice. Your voice is still there. Use it.
I will say though, the rank is, I will challenge this. Yes, true. Everybody has a voice, but I said it earlier. When it's right, it's right.
Well, yeah.
When it's wrong, it's wrong. So you have to be careful. There's
wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
speak
exactly.
up.
Exactly.
Like just because you might be a corporal and somebody who's a staff NCO is doing something they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
It's still okay to say something.
You talk about other things like if you're talking about
that. I don't mean just what. Don't run your mouth if you don't have a reason to. Okay.
I want to say.
Let's talk about that.
You're setting somebody up for a lot of failure.
Don't do that. But like, if you see something wrong or something wrong is being done to that person, speak up because you're your best advocate. You are your best advocate.
Yeah, and it's not even the military. So you're not the military,
that could be.
Yeah, it's the true thing about everybody. It's life in general. If at work it's not right, it's not right. Whether it's at work, if it's in your home and it's not right, it's not right. If it's with your friends, if it's honestly, if it's at Target and you see something that's not right, it's not right. And I think that's I think that's one of the things for us as veterans that I think we're different in general. Like we still think that my wife and I argue all the time. If I see something doesn't it doesn't have anything to do with it, but it's not right. I have an opinion about it, or I want to take action about it, which is crazy because when it doesn't matter what you're doing. When it's wrong, it's wrong. When it's right, it's right. But the chain of command is super important in the military for everybody that's listening.
It is.
Jessica's like, just do what you want to do.
It is.
No, but it is. But yeah, it is right.
I went a little Canadian goose for a minute.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think it is one of those things. Like I've always, as long as I think the great leaders in any organization, whether you're in the military, the civilian world, even if you're a parent, I think the worst thing I am, honestly, is as a parent when I'm wrong, because when I'm right, I'm right, and when I'm wrong, I'm right. That's as a parent.
I know.
Now the different part of it as my work Che, that's completely different. Like I talk to unfortunately, to be honest with you, I talk to my family horribly sometimes. A lot of times, but no, I mean, but because I'm in that.
I didn't realize I was going to make all these emotions.
No, it's true, but I think it's the truth. It's like, I think a lot of this is what we're talking about. I think this is why I'm doing this, to talk about whatever comes up and about things we're talking about. It's like, this is my safety net, right? So when I'm here, nobody's like, other than that the camera's on, nobody's videotaping it. So there's no repercussions. Like if I piss my son off, I piss my son off, right?
Here's the other thing. You're the most vulnerable with the people that you trust.
True. Right.
Mic drop.
Right.
Can I unhook this and drop it on the ground?
That. What was your original saying? You didn't say mic drop. She's doing two
I said hard stop.
Yeah, she's got hard stop, mic drop. It's all, like she's got all kinds of hashtag mic drop. No, but no, it's true. I think that's the point. As you talk about, what we're trying to do is talk to the veterans that are listening, and our spouses and our kids. To be honest with you, that's the truth. I'm glad you said that. I've never processed it that way, but yeah, my guard is down. I am the most vulnerable. I am who I am.
You got to be
I'm who I am at the time in my I'm who I am. Like I'm pissed off a lot. And I think a lot of veterans are. And a lot of people are. I'm pissed off a lot. I'm opinionated. I don't like a lot of shit. I don't like a lot of people. I don't like dogs, but I like cats.
I love cats.
No, but
hey, Eric, I need a kitten.
No, but
that's my husband.
But I'm
Eric,
glad you brought.
If you can hear me, I need a kitten.
But I think that's hard for us. I think so. And all joking aside, I really think that's a problem with veterans is I have to tell you from the bottom of my heart, like my wife and I think my kid, and I take it back, my wife and my kid.
That's my husband right there.
Heart stop, yeah.
Because I said, hey, Eric, I need a kitten. I think that's my husband.
Heart stop. Hashtag. No, mic drop. No. But the funny thing about that is like, I think a lot of us feel like that we are, especially veterans when we're at home, we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our families from ourselves. And I think my family, I'm thankful that I don't have to always protect myself. I think that's where I'm able to act like a lunatic, say awful shit, and they kind of understand that it's temporary, you know what I mean? And I do that. But so like that's the thing is like I think all of us as a safe haven for veterans, we need that place where it may not be at home, and that's what we're talking about, trying to help people. It may not be at home, it may be with a friend. You know, I've got some great friends that I'm able to call them up and be like, I'm pissed off. I don't like this. I don't like that. And then I tell them I got to go and hang up the phone and don't talk to them for 2 or 3 days. But
that
thank you guys.
Leads to a comment or a question about, can you tell people about the BRGs and what to look for at other organizations? And something I saw earlier that said, does the band get back together? And funny, whoever asked that, I love that the person asked that, because we have an ongoing Facebook Messenger, even though I'm not on Facebook, like we have a messenger thing where those of us that were stationed in Albany together, we still chat. Like we still will randomly be like, what are you guys doing? And like, we'll have video calls and we're connected right like it was 20 years ago, you know? And so it's really pretty cool that I've been able, like these people were my family, right? Like these are the people who are with you all the time. Like they're very close. And so I miss all of them so much. And it's been years since I've seen many of them, but you'll be on a call, like we'll be on a video call and it's like, I saw you yesterday. Right. And then the BRG thing. So BRG for me means Business Resource Group. At Ohio Health, we have a Veterans Business Resource Group. I am actually one of the co-chairs of that. My husband was a co-chair previously. But there are many companies in Ohio nationwide. They have veterans groups of some sort. They may not call it a BRG or business resource group. They might call it something else, but it's a way to stay plugged in and continue to support each other and, you know, talk about stuff like this, because these are people who, without even really knowing them, will understand. Right? You don't have to define the words. They just know the words.
Right.
So it's cool stuff to be able to connect if you have that opportunity where you work.
So we have a veterans resource group, a company I work for too. And what's interesting about that is our company actually pushes people that aren't even to be allies. So we have a lot of people in that veterans resource group that aren't even veterans, which is it's good and bad. And what I've noticed in the past couple of years is our group is that the people that are volunteering are actually for the leadership positions were never in the military, which is also like it's like it's good and bad. Like I'm like, why the hell aren't we volunteering? Like, you know, what I should do it, but I need more, you know, things to do on my plate. I don't. No, I have a lot going on. I don't have time to do it. No, I don't.
That's my new deal.
No, you have to volunteer. You already got me going to the VA.
Okay, I'd rather you go to the VA.
That's a big enough one. So.
But also, so ours.
One promise per episode.
I need 2 promises.
No, I can't handle that. Sorry.
I need 2 promises. No, 2 promises. No. Hard stop.
Only if you promise that you're not going to drink Angels of your Rye ever again.
I can't make that deal with you.
I know. So then we're good. One's good.
So I'm one of the co-chairs. The other co-chair, she's not a veteran.
Yeah.
But our structure is that at least one of our co-chairs will be a veteran, because you just can connect in a different way. So it's pretty cool. We've done some pretty cool things and awesome.
Yeah, the BRG that you want to call it. Like, I think one of the things, if you talk about, if you really research, like I have been before, and I think a lot of people are, is one of the main things that veterans deal with when it comes down to, if you look at when you're analyzing what's going on, is we are such a close knit group of people. We spend like the most intimate times together. We share everything. I mean, like our feelings they've seen us at our best and our worst. You know, we've slept in holes together with people. We've some people have slept
holes
in
we had to dig.
Yeah, like you
dig a hole and then sleep in this hole.
Yeah, you've like in the Navy.
I'm cold. Let's snuggle in the hole we just dug.
In the Navy, you sleep in the same. You hot rack. You sleep in the same. Like so.
Yeah.
But what happens is when you leave the military, a lot of us feel like we don't have that close tie together. And I think what's great about it, especially, I feel like the pandemic was interesting. So some of my classmates are on here. A couple of years ago when the pandemic started, we actually had a Zoom call. And a lot of us got on the Zoom call that we've never done that before. And it was a huge Zoom call, and I think it's gotten smaller, but people got connected. So the world today is a lot easier to connect. So I challenge all those veterans is, people out there, they want to talk to you. There's a way to get a hold of them. If it's Zoom, it's a phone call, it's email. Get out there. There's a way to do it. And like you said, find those organizations that do it. Like, we talked about the Legion earlier when we were talking.
Marine Corps League.
The Marine, no, but it was another, not you, the Marine Corps League, but something else. But the Legion, before you got here, because you were 35 minutes late.
I was here at exactly 18:30.
Maybe 18:34. That's what I'm going with, but that's fine. So, but what I'm saying is there's organizations out there. You have to find those people. And honestly, sometimes it isn't always, like you said before, it isn't always the veteran that you talk to. It is safe. There are people that aren't veterans that you can talk to. And that's important. And then, like you said before, like, I'm not a professional. You are more of a professional than I am. But if you need to talk to somebody, there's always those resources that are out there. Absolutely call them. Take advantage of that. Do what you need to do. But those relationships can stay the same. They won't be the same, but they're different.
They're so close.
They're still connected.
They are so close, though. Yeah. I still have a few people from when I was enlisted that I still stay in touch with, and I saw one of my peeps. His name is Kevin, and I saw him maybe a year and a half ago. I just happened to be in the same city that he was in. I was like, "Let's go get dinner," and he was like, "Yes, done. Okay." It's so awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, somebody just put "we take care of everyone," which is actually true.
But if you have the opportunity to get connected with those things, so, get connected with a business resource group. If you're not at an organization that has one, I don't know, start one. The other thing is, I don't know if you've ever talked about Honor Flight on here, but I'm going to talk about it.
No, we did. Yeah, we have talked about it before.
So volunteer for the Honor Flight, you guys, because how awesome is it to honor? We're now, our World War II vets are few and far between. We are now honoring Vietnam and Korea, Vietnam vets, the people that were never honored, right? The people that were never honored. Go, even if it's not on a flight, go greet them at the airport when they get there, greet them when they come off the plane. Just show them the support they never got.
Right.
When they had to go serve. And I have to share this because it's one of my favorite parts of my job. I get to talk to a lot of veterans, and I can't share anything other than I get to talk to a lot, but a lot of times these Vietnam vets who are at end of life will share the story with me that they've never even told their family, because I just go in and say, "Thank you for your service. I was in the service too." And they will share things with me that they've never shared with anybody. And that is the coolest part of my current job, is getting those stories that no one else got, because they were all just kind of like forgotten about. So go honor people.
Mic drop.
Hard stop.
No, we've actually had two guests that were before. If you had Facebook, you'd know these things, but they were actually
negatively impacting my mental health.
Which is true. Yeah, it's a good point about, like, Facebook is awful. It's a devil, but it's also a resource where if you use it right, you can do some great things. But like I said, I would challenge what you said about the end of life that veterans. Veterans, find who you can share it with. It's very hard sometimes for us to share with our family. It's hard to talk about that. I personally share a lot with other people because I ultimately, live with my family and see them every day and respect them a great deal. And I don't want them to look at me any differently about how I feel or what I've done or what and it's hard. So like find that person. Don't, any veteran, don't wait till the end of life to talk to somebody about it. There's someone that cares. Find somebody that trusts you, that you trust, and talk to them. And they definitely want to hear it. And you need to get that out before, the end of the time. And that is a hard thing. The veteran, obviously a Vietnam veteran, my dad's a Vietnam veteran. It was a tough time, but it's transcended all the way to, the global war on terrorism veterans like myself, and a lot of them that are on here. We're appreciated a little bit more, but it wasn't any easier. And we still suck at doing what they sucked at doing. And I say that. No, it's the truth. It's like, it really, no, it's true that
because you're taught, suck it up and keep going.
But that's
suck it up and keep going.
But that's
right?
where you have to break this down. If you're talking about things that are great, like we suck at doing that. We suck at telling people how we feel. Right.
Because it was ingrained in your head, suck it up and keep going. That's the hardest thing to break.
I agree, but that's also, but we have to take anything, you take ownership of what you're talking about. So like, we talk about the suicide epidemic in the military is crazy, but each individual person, and we have that responsibility. We have the responsibility to tell people how we feel. We have the responsibility to tell people what we need. And it's hard. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. Like,
asking for help is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
You have to do
that.
But
it is the most rewarding thing you will ever do, because you will realize, even if you think you don't have people to help you, you have like a lot of people that are there for you. You just have to take that first step of vulnerability and do it.
Right.
And ask, tell people what you need.
So now we're officially breaking barriers here. We've got the first woman guest, first Marine guest, first Angel Zombie guest that didn't bring their own bottle, the first bring their own bottle, and now our longest running episode, which is awesome. And I'm not ready to cut off, so we now have to go to the second.
Oh, we still have another break, don't we?
We have to break. We're on. This is the longest one. It's going well, and like I said, thanks for coming on. So now I'm gonna hopefully change your mind a little bit. So we're gonna go to
another cup, because
I filled you some water. You get down the water. You need to drink some water.
Okay.
Finish that when you're ready to go. I'm prepping you here. So
that was water.
Now we're gonna go to one of the things I always sling to everybody. If they say they like Angels Every Rye, I go to Sagamore Rye. So if you know this, as we're talking about this, Sagamore Rye, also distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. A little bit different. It's not finished in the rum cask he likes, but it is a blended whiskey. It's blended with a high rye mash bill, that same one that's in Angel's Envy, the 95.5, and then it's 95% rye, 5% malted corn, and then it's either a blend between two low ryes of 51% corn, or 51% rye, 45% corn, 4% malted barley, or 51% rye and 49% malted barley. Sagamore won't tell you which one they're blending, but they blend those in there to have this. The one we're having today is actually a private barrel pick from Opa Grill and Tavern, 7.5 years old. I think we did this one in 2020. Are you ready now?
I'm ready.
Hopefully we'll pour you the same that we did before.
Not very much.
Is that good?
That's plenty.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm falling for your tricks now. I know it is like you didn't bring your bottle, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at what I found. My favorite whiskey. That's great. No, but a little bit about Sagamore. So as you said, the whiskey is actually sourced from MGP.
Someone says maybe you need to try that quote again.
Yeah, I'll do it at the end. I can do it again. I can rock it again. I did screw that. I was so excited about that quote. The quote, like that quote. I was like, when I found that quote, like I pretend like I don't research, but I was like, how do you you just Google something like Marine Corps band quotes, and I'm like, and all this crazy shit comes up, right? And then I found this quote, and I was like, holy shit, this is from Kennedy, and this is like super cool. So I was super excited about that quote, and I messed it up. But for all those folks that don't know a little bit, we try to highlight the whiskey. So Sagamore Spirit is actually out of Baltimore. It was founded in 2015 by Kevin Plank, who is actually the owner or the founder of Under Armour, which is pretty cool. I don't know if people know that. So he did that. All their products they have now. This is actually casting, but everything else that they knocked down is actually from lime soap filtered water. They call the Spring House, which was built in 1908. And if you look at the bottles, they all have 1908 somewhere. I think they're on the cork here on these. If you look, it's right there on the cork. They talk about that. So their signature, they have a few spirits like the one we're having right now. They have a cask strength rye, a double oak rye that they distribute globally. Originally, like a lot of startup distilleries, Sagamore Spirit sourced from MGP. Back in 2017, they started aging their own stuff. So it will be soon, I don't know exactly when, but you'll start seeing some stuff. They already have some stuff that's actually their distillate, but they're also sourcing stuff like that. They're selling stuff that's from MGP as well. And then what is cool about them is they actually, in 2011, last year, we talked about first, and women going to California. They actually, not as cool, but they actually had the first bottled and bond first straight ride that they founded in 2021 in the state of Maryland, which is pretty cool. Like I said before, this one's 7.5 years old. Hopefully you enjoy it. I feel like it's not that sweet.
I like the sweet.
What do you think of this one?
It's okay.
She's this lady. It's hard to. Sorry. It's a good thing you married Eric. I feel for you, buddy. I feel for you. No, I'm joking.
He's super lucky. Okay.
He's super lucky. It's blessed. Is the word you're supposed to use? He's blessed. But
hard stop. He's super lucky. Eric spent. I'm going to give Eric his plug now because he deserves this. He spent 24 and a half years in the Army, and he retired as a major. No, I do not call him sir. Sometimes I call him sir. Okay.
You should call him sir.
Sometimes I call him sir.
Eric, you need to lock that shit up at home, dude.
I call him. Oh, that's him. I am blessed and lucky. Oh, Mandy said ew. Eric, Mandy said ew. Yes, you did it.
Ew. Lock it up, Eric.
I do call him sir sometimes. He's amazing. And I couldn't be, he's at home with my kids, so that I could be here. So how awesome is that? And I have to give him his plug. He served his country for 24 and a half years. So that is an amazing thing. That is an amazing thing to do. So yeah.
Lock it up. Yeah. I think it's funny. Like Eric should be a guest. Yeah, we can have him on. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, he should.
And she should stay home, watch the kids.
No, I'm going to.
Hopefully, Eric, you won't let me down. You'll be on time. You'll bring the bottle that you said you're going to bring. I mean,
yeah. Are you gonna call him sir?
Maybe I will. Yeah. Maybe I will come sir. Yeah, because we understand the rank structure in the Army. We're not all this new Marine Corps where it's just like, forget the chain of command. Fuck that corporal. You know what I mean? No. You know what I mean? Like I'm not listening to him. No, which is crazy. No, it's
if
great.
He was gonna tell me to do something stupid, I was not gonna listen. Okay?
Which is true. Yeah, like. But
no.
I mean, like, do officers ever tell you to do anything stupid? We never do. I mean, it's
second lieutenants have.
What is everybody's hatred? I love us. Everybody hates a second lieutenant.
I did not say that word. I said
everybody hates a second lieutenant.
They aren't as experienced as others, unless they were enlisted first. Then it's different.
Whoa, this is some deep stuff. I mean, I agree and I disagree. Hard stop. No, I agree and disagree. Yeah. So there's different. There's always
what does that
different,
even mean right now?
If we're talking about, so myself personally, my dad's a retired enlisted guy. So I grew up, it's military brat, Army brat. So I see my dad in the old school NCO days. I remember my dad's platoon sergeant. No. Like in all seriousness, I remember my dad like balancing people's checkbooks. I remember back in the day, like all these things that, like, if you talk about the NCO creed, which the Army has, and I think the Marine Corps probably has somewhere, like not that the NCOs today, I'm going to be clear that they're not doing that, but that's what I grew up with. Someone that was just like to the book. I remember vividly, like some strange, 20-year-old and his wife in our kitchen, and come home and I'm like,
oh, because he was mentoring the crap.
No, he wasn't mentoring. He was literally helping them balance a checkbook.
That's mentoring.
Yeah, that's the new 2022 word. But it was like, but it's also like this person.
Was it also get your shit together?
No, you see this stuff like that's where I grew up. So then, so like there's different. So for people that don't know, again, because I do get a lot of criticism about making sure, because people that don't know the military as in depth as we do, that we talk about some things. So there's different ways to get commissioned, whether you're in the Marine Corps, the Army, or whatever. There's becoming enlisted usually becomes the most prominent way would be OCS, which is Officers Candidate School. So you're an enlisted person, you get selected to this. You go to Officer Candidate School. You were enlisted before, like you were, and then you go to college, you get your 40 degree, and you get commissioned ROTC. So the second source is ROTC. And then there's other ones, but I'm going to talk the main three because they're going to be talking about medical, that kind of stuff. We're not getting into that stuff. But the third one would be your service academies, West Point, Annapolis, which Marine Corps and Navy officers, also
Yeah.
other brand.
So in Annapolis, you are in the Navy until you graduate and say, I'm going to join the Marines now or the Navy. Like you are Navy until that point. Sorry.
Right. So like, and so there's different things. So you have OCS, you have ROTC, and you have the service academies.
Side note, I had an ROTC scholarship and I said no to it.
Because you couldn't play in the band. Obviously, we know you're like, I'm playing the
No, I got it while I was at the School of Music. They were like, hey, you've been selected for the scholarship. And I said, I'm good.
All Marine officers got, that's true. Yeah. So, but there is ROTC part of it. They're all different. Like, we're just talking in general. Like, we can't go
all I was trying to do was make fun of second lieutenants. Okay?
No, but
that's all I was trying to do.
But you brought up something that was a key point. Like
that's all I was trying to do.
My heart. So like there are definitely second lieutenants that come out of there that think the thing you talked about, the great points you brought up. You brought up about I'm a second lieutenant. You do as I say. I'm the boss. You know, that bad leadership you talked about. But there's also, depending where you come from, and I'm super proud of my alma mater.
Well, you have a different story. I'm talking about brand new second lieutenants who
I was a brand new second lieutenant. I went to military school.
But you went to a military school, so it's different.
Yeah, but we also did graduate some people, and they will listen that.
Okay.
They didn't do a great job when they became a second lieutenant. But what I'm saying,
but also, all I wanted to do is make fun of second lieutenants. He's shutting me down.
Lord. Yeah, but you can't make fun of everybody. Like I want to make. I made the error. Look, I made the error that all Marines eat crayons. So like it's the same thing. Yeah, it is true. Like, but it is funny. That is a different thing. So this is the fun thing about what's going on about the military in general is the camaraderie, but then also that we can make fun of each other and poke each other about, there's jokes like you can't spell loss without LT, all these other kind of stuff. That it's funny. Second lieutenants, but it's a difficult job. And all seriously, I've been in that job. I've never been in that
job, so I can't even talk about it.
It's a great job. It's a tough job. It's like, so you're thrust into something where you go to school and you're taught like you're in charge and this is what you do. You're going to lead. And to be honest with you, it's what a lot of us wanted to do. I mean, like that's it. I wanted to lead people. That's what I always wanted to do. I hold that as being one of the most important things I've ever done in my life. That you're leading someone's daughter, someone's son. You have ultimate responsibility, and those officers do that. Not that NCOs don't, but that's the ultimate responsibility. So we're thrust into that. You're thrust to be like, do this, do that, and it's a tough road to navigate. You like, and what's kept me, being a dick that I am is
it was seconded earlier.
No, but listen to NCOs. I mean, NCOs are super important. I mean, I think the non-commissioned officers. I talked to one of my old NCOs a lot. He's actually now retired, one officer. We've reconnected, and he kept me out of a lot of trouble. But my first platoon sergeants were amazing. They listened.
That's what you had that was good because.
But I also told them at times that listen. I'm responsible.
Yeah.
I'm in charge.
But you listened to them.
You're wrong.
So there you go.
I'm right. You're right. I'm wrong. It's the same thing.
But you listened, right? You were a good leader and you listened. Sure. That is not the case for all of them.
It's tough. I mean, leadership is tough. I mean, we're talking about decisions, whether you're a second lieutenant, a E6, or you're a CEO or you're a ship supervisor. Being in leadership and being in charge of people really fucking sucks. It really does. I mean, I think one of the funniest things when I got out of the Army, I initially went into, I worked for Penske Truck Leasing because the military and everybody told me like, you're a leader. Like you had the most ultimate leadership training. You're a leader. That's what you should do. And like, boom, you're in charge of leading. Right. And then like all of a sudden you're back into being in charge of 30, 40 people. And then you realize a course of life, you're like, holy shit, I'm getting my ass chewed 99% of the time because of somebody else, not me. Right. And I was like, this kind of sucks after a few years. I mean, it's like, so it was funny. I had an opportunity to take a sales job and I was like, do I like sales? I have no sales. I'm a manager. I'm a leader. I got all this kind of shit. And then I'm like, and I had the sales job and I'm like, then I started thinking about it. I'm like, as a leader, you have to sell things as well. You have to, if you believe in the plan, it's easy to sell. If you don't believe in the plan, it's super hard to sell. We had to sell to everybody. This is a great idea. And if it didn't work out, you just say, hey, I'm a fucking second lieutenant. I said, we're doing it. We're doing it. That's the way to do it. But no, but it is funny. It is tough to be a leader, whether you're in the military, anywhere in any organization. It's tough, but it's also super challenging. My favorite moments, the things I hope most pride for are people that I was blessed and fortunate to be in charge of what they've accomplished. I still hold those near and dear to my heart, and that's the great thing about being a leader. It really sucks. It's lonely. Whether you're a second lieutenant, it's really lonely when you're a second lieutenant. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
you're kind of on your own, but it's good though. I challenge everybody to do that. It's great. So
the last thing I would say, because I feel like we eventually have to stop, right?
Do we though? I mean, how many hours do we have left of this? I think it was 60 hours of recording time. Could we go 48 hours on this now?
I would say don't sell yourself short on your resume, right? No matter how long you spent in the service, like highlight that stuff, because whether you're 4 years, 6 years, 24 years, right? Like you have experiences that other people don't have. So highlight that stuff.
Yeah, I've been out since 05. Like I don't count the reserve time. I would say 05. I think 08 is a real official time that I got out. But what you said is super important. Like and one of the fun things she hasn't talked about is why she's so comfortable. Like I sat down here like 5 minutes before we started just to get situated. She did show up 34 minutes late, didn't bring her bottle.
30 minutes late.
And
30 minutes late. Like I did not bring the bottle.
1 minute and 3 seconds is like stuffing
garlic
food into her mouth.
It was garlic.
What we didn't talk about is she actually is a local national speaker for
and international.
International. So yeah, sorry. Sorry. I knew she was gonna correct me on that. Yeah, so local, national, international. Mic drop speaker. So she's actually comfortable in doing that, and you can see that before. But you've had some great points, which is why I've been super excited to have you on. You talked about the resume is a great thing. Like transitioning out of the military, it's difficult. So it's difficult to convey what you've done in the military to some people that have never understood that. So I definitely will add on to what you said is find somebody who's in corporate America that's been in the military. Even if you meet them like in passing, send them send somebody like me their resume so we can look at it and we can turn something that's completely military into what the civilian world and that's a huge thing.
I will look at anybody's resume and help you. I am not, and I don't make promises that I will not hold up. Like if you send your resume, even if it like send it to Che, he'll get it to me. I will look at it. For that. Yeah, well, I just did. Guess what I just did? Signed you up for that. I'll look at it because it's hard to translate that stuff, but people have done great things and you need to be able to play to that when you're trying to transition out. So,
yeah, and not to knock the military resources, because like for people when you get out, there are resources to do that. I will say the resources are good. However, those resources are very limited. I'm not going to like, I've been in corporate America since 2005. The people in corporate America, the veterans have a very unique way to figure out how to bridge that gap and make it applicable to today, which is I think is the problem with veterans, because you have veterans that like, I mean, think about it. Like there's a 21-year-old guy somewhere or gal who is like fully combat loaded. They're responsible for 5 or 6 people. They literally on their body alone have $70,000 worth of shit. I'm just talking money. Like, yeah, the weight of the world. They have all this responsibility. They get out and they go somewhere and they try to get a job, and people are like,
you don't have leadership experience here, though. Right.
Or it's communicating the same way. There's a bridging gap. Like there's the military world, there's the civilian world, and like you take the resources that the military gives you to transition out. Also, build your base of people in the that have been out for. I'm domesticated for the most part, but. But find those people. It's important, and there are people that are out there. I mean, you definitely want to do that. Like I always tell people, I tell my kids this all the time. It's pretty funny. If I have a bunch of resumes before when I was a hiring manager, and I look at it, as soon as I see somebody that served in the military, like
top of the list.
Yeah, you're automatically like, no matter what, like I'm like, holy cow, this person's.
I gotta call you real quick.
Yeah, this person is like, and we've earned that. I mean, the veterans have absolutely earned that. But the other part of that is don't think just because you're a veteran, right, that you get out of the military. And this is how I've seen this happen to some people I know. I was a lieutenant colonel in the military. I did this kind of stuff, and I'm getting out, and I don't understand why I'm not making $220,000 a year. you have to be able to assess that the same way. Yeah, American business is different. You have to be able to do both those things. You have to those same things. If you're an E6, E4, again, it's the same things, lieutenant colonel or a command sergeant major. You have to like sit back and like look how that translates into the civilian world. And I think there's a lot of veterans like this that
just
definitely want to hire the veterans, right?
Hey, guess what? That's a good human characteristic. Don't be entitled.
Look at this. Look at that. We almost had that same timing. It's like, ready, 1, 2, 3. We got to do that when we close it out. We got to be able to do that.
You got to be better about your timing.
What are we going to do when we end? What are we going to end? Are we going to end it with like mic drop, or are we end it with...
I'm going to unscrew this and...
No, you're not.
I know.
I love this. So we're now going to close to 2 hours, which is so fun. I can keep going. So, Erin, I do want to thank you, first of all, for a few things. First of all, for having the courage to serve your country.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does that. You're my sister. Even though you joined the Marine Corps, I respect that. Second of all, thank you for coming on the podcast, never meeting me before. That's super special to me. Thanks for coming down here. That's pretty amazing. Third of all, thank you for what you do in your professional life. It's pretty amazing. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So we will hard stop. Well, I think it was a hard stop at the end. So we're gonna get to the honestly, the part that is why I'm doing this, and we've had some new people join, but the reason why I'm doing this is I hope this reaches out to one veteran or not even a veteran anymore. It's somebody that's struggling, that has not understood that life is worth living. There's too many of us that are doing the wrong thing, and I'm pretty hard about that. And I get criticism about saying that, but too many of us are taking our own lives, and there's better options. Everything is a better option than that. And the problem is figuring that out, and I don't have that answer. I wish I did. It would solve a lot of problems, but I don't. So we're gonna end it like we always do. Tonight we're gonna honor a veteran who unfortunately took his life. We're going to remember Lance Corporal Robby Edward Mathews from the United States Marine Corps. He was born on June 27th, 1986, and took his life in September 4th, 2014. So United States Marine Corps Lance Corporal Robby Mathews, 28. Robby took his life on Thursday, September 4th, 2014 at Camp Pendleton, California, after struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder and a suspected traumatic brain injury, TBI, caused from an improvised IED explosion while he was in Afghanistan. Robby was born, like I said, on June 27th, 1986 in Fort Worth, Texas. He was raised in Worlton and attended Worlton High School. He enlisted in the Marine Corps after he graduated and spent a little time at a junior college. He served in a lot of places. He served both in Iraq and Afghanistan and on several MUs, which are joint efforts between Marines and sailors aboard amphibious assault ships designed to respond to national threat interests. Robby, while he was alive, enjoyed fishing, camping, kayaking, golf, and just being with his friends and family. Like a lot of veterans, he left people behind, which is the people that I think sometimes we always have to remember that action. So he's survived by his wife, Erin, his daughters, Brooke and Lizzie Mathews, his stepdaughter, Emily, and his stepson, Noah. So if you're a veteran out there listening, you're struggling, like I said before, call me, DM me. I will answer, but I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be. But if you need professional help or someone that does, absolutely have them reach out to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. Or text 838-255. So I think that's going to put it into our longest episode, close to 150. And what are we doing?
Hard stop.
So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you in a couple weeks.